Wife Alana and I were dining at a fancy restaurant when I spotted my oldest and closest friend approaching our table. I discreetly informed my wife about it, mentioning that Terrence Landis was coming over. I reminded her that he had been my best friend since second grade, but advised her to be cautious around him, given his reputation as a ladies' man. Thankfully, Alana replied softly, assuring me that she would be fine. I then asked her about Terrence, noting that he was the wealthy friend I had mentioned before. I nodded in her direction and rose to greet Terrence, who embraced me tightly, though the gesture felt a bit awkward in such a public place. Terrence expressed his joy at seeing me again, mentioning that it had been a while since we hung out. He seemed to have a particular interest in Alana and inquired if she was my lovely wife. He also mentioned that he had sent a gift when we got married in Singapore, hoping we enjoyed it. Alana, quite excited, brought up the pickup truck he had gifted me and offered a hug. I introduced her to Terrence, explaining their connection. Terrence then politely but firmly pulled me aside to embrace Alana. In her usual outgoing manner, Alana commented on his tall and handsome appearance and hugged him for a bit longer than I thought was suitable for a married woman. Curious about Terrence's presence in Daytona, I asked why he was there. Terrence explained that he had purchased a condo in the dunes and was currently renovating it. He mentioned that he was staying at a local hotel and had come to the restaurant for dinner alone. Alana, always inquisitive, remarked on his condo purchase, expressing her surprise that he was renovating it since the condos were practically new. She couldn't fathom what needed changing. Terrence agreed with her, explaining that the bedrooms felt cramped to him and he had taken the opportunity to buy a free penthouse. He planned to paint it and get new furniture. It was evident that Terrence was making an effort to impress Alana, who was particularly materialistic. Despite my decent income and savings, she seemed determined to spend us into financial trouble. We were celebrating our 3rd anniversary, but her attention was primarily on Terrence, which didn't escape the notice of onlookers who looked at me sympathetically. I suggested that we focus on each other again as the waiter brought our food. Alana didn't argue, but intensified her focus on our steaks. Alana insisted that Terrence should join us, as my best friend was also her friend. Terrence hesitated, mentioning that he didn't want to intrude on our romantic dinner. However, Alana quickly intervened, instructing the waiter to set the table for Terrence, who was joining us for dinner. The waiter swiftly attended to it, and in no time, Terrence was seated at our table, dominating the conversation. I managed to win a game of solitaire on my phone, while he and Alana chatted about various topics. I didn't pay much attention to their conversation until Alana addressed me. She suggested that we had 2 spare rooms and that we should invite Terrence to stay with us, allowing us to catch up. Although she mentioned he could try her home-cooked meals, I suspected she'd order expensive takeout from fancy restaurants instead. I was taken aback by her suggestion and had my doubts about whether Terrence would appreciate her cooking. My first wife, Helen, passed away after 22 years of marriage. She and Terrence were close friends, and I never worried about their friendship because Helen was devoted and trustworthy. Sadly, she passed away suddenly from a heart attack 5 years ago. I mourned for over a year before meeting Alana at a charity event. Despite the 11-year age difference, we eventually got married, and we've been together for 3 years now. Alana had been divorced before, claiming her first husband cheated on her. I was committed to never cheating on my wife, and Alana knew it. It seemed that Alana had no trouble convincing Terrence to stay with us, and I suspected her revealing attire played a part in it. Terrence didn't have to wake up early for work, which was a luxury reserved for those without millions in the bank. Alana hadn't worked since her first divorce, and she had me sign a prenuptial agreement stating I wouldn't touch her money, no matter how long we were married. This suited me fine, as I had a stable income from my investments and a good job. When I arrived home on Monday night, Alana and Terrence appeared even closer than they were at the restaurant the night before. Dinner was prepared and exceptionally tasty, but I noticed the trash can filled with containers from a local restaurant. Terrence and Alana were so engrossed in their own world that they didn't even notice when I left the living room, climbed the stairs, and went to bed. Their lack of attention didn't make me feel awkward. I was quite surprised when I got home on Wednesday evening and found Alana seemingly waiting for me. She was sitting on an expensive sofa, which in my opinion was a bit too close, especially for a friend. The man she had recently met was Terrence. Alana's opening statement was that we needed to have a conversation. Once again, I was taken aback. It was just a regular Wednesday, and I couldn't help but wonder how Terrence had worked his magic so swiftly. I knew he was skilled at everything he pursued, but this was incredibly impressive, and I knew it would cost me. Alana explained that Terrence and I had discovered a strong connection, one we hadn't intended for, but couldn't deny. She informed me that she was going to divorce me as soon as it was possible, and that she planned to marry Terrence. She requested that I not try to dissuade her, emphasizing that she wouldn't give up her home and half her savings just because I couldn't stay faithful, and Terrence couldn't keep his actions in check. I responded with determination that surprised even myself, stating that I would fight her every step of the way. Alana, in response, expressed disdain and labeled my reaction as typical of someone who's insecure. She clarified that she didn't marry me for my money and didn't want it when we divorced. Both Terrence and Alana believed that the divorce process would be smoother if she left with the money she brought into the marriage. She demanded to know if this was enough incentive for a quick divorce. In a sly manner, I replied, asking her where she wanted me to sign, knowing that money meant more to her than to me. Alana insisted that she would spend the next few nights with Terrence while they waited for his apartment to be painted, and she made it clear that she didn't want to hear any complaints, whining, crying, or grumbling. I simply nodded and turned, heading to the nearest bar. It's incredible how quickly a divorce can proceed through the legal process when all three parties involved are motivated, especially when one of them is quite wealthy. A few months later, I was a single man once more. The weekend after the divorce was finalized, I returned to the same restaurant where I had first met Alana and found Terrence sitting at a two-person table. I walked over and joined him. Terrence wondered whether he should publicly praise me or wait for a more private setting. I expressed my lack of composure, suggesting that I didn't understand how he could be so cheerful. I mentioned that he shouldn't have proposed to Alana, as she could potentially come after him for various reasons like infidelity, breach of contract, outright deception, or just being rude. Terrence, in his usual calm manner, assured me that such things wouldn't happen. He suggested that I wasn't seeing the big picture and encouraged me to enlighten him. He also mentioned that he knew Alana and described her as stubborn, vengeful, and quite cunning. I asked Terrence with a chuckle whether he had felt differently when he proposed to her. I asked him to consider what the final straw was that made him decide to get rid of her. I admitted that I wasn't entirely sure, but I mentioned that it might have had something to do with the fact that her personal trainer was seeing her 3 times a week, and for some reason, it bothered me. I explained that the thought of filing for divorce, even for infidelity, was unappealing because she would have received half of everything plus alimony. I added that this was why I had turned to him for help, expressing my surprise at his ability to persuade her to ask for a divorce by Wednesday. I commented that it was incredible and noted that his persuasive skills must have improved over the years. Terrence confessed that it had more to do with how his portfolio had grown over the years. He explained that once she realized how much money he had, she was able to seduce him instantly. He admitted that he would miss her in bed and mentioned that making love to my wife had been one of the highlights of his life. I said seriously that her unique talent drew me into this whole scheme. I acknowledged that Terrence did an excellent job freeing me from that money-hungry woman, but I wondered why he didn't care about how she'd react to being left without ever getting married. I suggested she might figure out the entire plan, given her conniving nature and cleverness. Terrence explained that he had the big picture in mind when he gave Alana a weekend at the Ritz, complete with a spa day as an engagement gift. I retorted, calling him a fool, and reminding him that Alana's personal trainer was now a masseuse at the Ritz, raising the possibility that she might have run into him. Terrence admitted that he had booked the spa for her and shared that he had visited her the previous night to see how delighted she was with his gift. He mentioned that he had a key to the room and that his phone was set up for video. I processed the situation and inquired if she had been with her former personal trainer, asking if there was a video and if she had cheated on him. I wondered if Terrence had been upset enough to call off the engagement. Terrence replied with a grin, stating that Alana was devastated by his unyielding stance, and it was the first time she'd ever done something like that. He assured me that it wouldn't happen again. I mentioned that I was on the same page as her in not being affected by the situation. Currently, Alana was out shopping, giving back the gifts I had given her, and there were tears and angry words involved. Terrence added with a big grin that I owed him dinner for convincing her to say she wanted a divorce on Wednesday. I acknowledged his efforts, saying he had saved me a lot of money, and that I'd love to treat him to dinner because he had always had my back, unlike Alana, who didn't understand what real friendship meant. Story 2. I'm Frank Grimes, and my wife is Peggy. We've been married for 2 decades and have 2 children, Mike and Emma. I'm returning home after dropping off Emma at university, and I'm looking forward to discussing my wife's affairs over the past 12 years. Her latest affair is the most serious, and now that our kids are gone, she wants to leave me for her lover. As I turn onto our street, I spot our house with the lights on, indicating she's home. I pull into the driveway, get out of the car, open the front door, and walk in. My wife sits on the couch, looking somewhat anxious, though I've never even raised my voice at her, let alone my hand. She glances at me and then at the 2 suitcases near the door. I focus on them too. Peggy, my wife, has left to take Emma to her first year at university. I'm sitting on the couch, waiting for my lover to pick me up. My suitcases are packed, and I've left Frank a note explaining my departure for another man. But my lover is running late, and I'm anxious about what might happen if Frank returns home first. My current lover is just the latest in a series of lovers I've had over the past 12 years. But this one is special, and we're deeply in love. I reflect on my past affairs during this time. My first lover was my tennis coach at the country club. He was attentive and caring, but he left without a word. Next was a work colleague, and our affair started on a business trip to New York, fueled by too much drink. It continued for over 2 years, mostly during company trips and late nights in his office. Then he vanished, rumored to have run off with a younger woman. After that, an old college friend and I rekindled our affair at a charity sale, which lasted 6 months. The most recent affair is with Tom, my best friend's husband. It began with innocent flirting at a barbecue and evolved into a passionate love affair. Now I'm waiting for him to pick me up, but he's running late and I'm growing anxious. Peggy, were you planning to leave with Tom, or did you intend to tell me about him? I point to a note on the table with my wedding rings placed on it. Frank picks up the note, drops my rings on the floor, and reads it. Dear Frank, as you can see, I left you for another man. It doesn't matter who. I love him and he loves me. We are going far away. Please don't try to find me. We had a good marriage and good times, but we've grown apart in recent years. It's time to say goodbye. Frank reads the note, smiles, and puts it in his briefcase. Then he turns to me and thanks me for the note, saying it will make things easier. He mentions a video of me with Tom in our bed, and I'm bewildered. Frank reveals that he's known about my affairs from the start and had me under surveillance. He shares that he got rid of my lovers to maintain a stable family for our children and avoid financial consequences in a divorce. Frank, let me share a little story with you. Back in elementary school, my closest friend was a boy named George Vanoni. He was a small kid who often got picked on, but I'd always step in to protect him, even if it meant taking a beating myself. Eventually, the school realized that messing with him meant dealing with me, and they didn't like the consequences. Our friendship continued through college and remains intact today. George's mother, whose maiden name was Gambini, belonged to the same Gambini family associated with the East Side. She had a desire to distance herself from the family's illegal activities, so they sent him to a regular high school and college. He pursued business and law as his majors, while I focused on business and accounting. Despite his mother's objections, he later joined the family business. As my investment firm prospered, I started handling their investments, which brought a sense of respectability to their financial endeavors. In return, I made a significant amount of money. George had always mentioned that he owed me a favor, and I eventually called in that favor when I learned about your professional tennis player. George assured me he could handle it, and soon, that player was no longer a concern. I became concerned when she appeared ill, so I fetched a bowl from the kitchen. Similar situations arose with your second and third lovers. Once you got involved with them, I made sure that Mike and Emma had a mother. If you hadn't considered leaving me, they would still be alive. She inquired, with tears streaming down her face, if it was my fault they were gone. I explained that I believed Tom was also deceased. However, I genuinely felt relief that she was leaving me for Tom. The kids were now in college and didn't need her. Tom was alive and waiting for her to join him. The look of relief on her face was quite something. Did she really think I'd confess to being rude to 3 men and let her off the hook? She asked why I hadn't simply let her go with Tom. I clarified that before she left, I wanted revenge. I reminded her of our little dog Fifi and how I always cared for her. The meat labeled for dogs only, in the freezer, came from her previous partners after their demise. So every time I saw Fifi do her business, it reminded me that her partners were nothing more than garbage. But that wasn't all. Glute and thigh muscles made great steaks, and she had even commented on how tasty they were when I grilled them. I asked her to think about the last time she had them. This time she actually threw up, but she missed the bowl on her dressing. I continued, telling her that now she knew. I pressed speed dial on my disposable phone, and 2 burly men entered through the front door. I informed her that these gentlemen would ensure her rendezvous with Tom, and she could spend the rest of her life with him, knowing she was accountable for the souls of her former lovers. I bid farewell to Peggy and expressed my hope that she would face the consequences. One of the 2 men grabbed Peggy's suitcases, while the other escorted her to the waiting car. She didn't utter another word, as promised. They spent the rest of their lives together, driving in Tom's car for precisely as long as it took to reach the bottom of the old quarry, 10 miles out of town. Now, they're all together in the same place, 1 cheating partner and 4 wife-stealing individuals. I love my life, and I have the proof that my beloved wife Peggy left me for another man.
On that significant day in August 2005, my friend, an 18-year-old high school graduate, burst into the door of our cozy 2-room apartment, and I couldn't believe my incredible luck. Her lifelong dream of becoming an actress had always seemed quite achievable to me, given her undeniable beauty and exceptional talent. This was unsurprising, considering her vibrant cheerleading background and active involvement in various school drama productions throughout her school years. With her whole future ahead of her, the acting profession appeared to be a reachable reality. While my girlfriend had always been resolute about pursuing a career as an actress, I was still contemplating the direction of my own life. I wasn't particularly interested in college and was content working at McDonald's, allowing my girlfriend to take the lead. However, that day marked a turning point. Filled with excitement, she shared the news that she had secured a minor role in a highly acclaimed blockbuster film. It was an incredible development. Though she only had 2 lines to deliver, it felt like a monumental step toward fulfilling her dream. She explained that the lead role in this fantastic opportunity was being played by a regular customer from Hooters restaurant. After promising her a role, and even booking a ticket to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I unquestionably believed in the opportunity that had arisen. Despite my naivety, I refrained from asking how she had managed to land such an incredible chance. In the evening, we gathered with friends to celebrate this momentous occasion. Each moment brought us closer to the allure and grandeur of Hollywood. Eager to have me accompany her on this journey, she reached out to a mysterious sponsor who generously purchased a ticket for me as well. Her happiness was infectious, and I had never seen her so elated before. Upon arriving in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we were met with opulence. Checking into a luxurious hotel for 4 days was a thrilling experience. While my girlfriend was occupied with her scenes for 2 of those days, I didn't mind. I made the most of the opportunity, soaking up the atmosphere of stunning beaches and basking in the warm sun. The remaining days felt like an uninterrupted vacation, filled with beach excursions, lively parties, and even encounters with celebrities involved in the film production. It was like a dream come true. All of this served as motivation that fueled our desire for the glamorous lifestyle that the film industry offered. Upon returning to Pennsylvania, we couldn't shake off the allure of that world. We knew that our path led to Los Angeles, where my friend could wholeheartedly pursue her dreams in the film industry. Her time in St. Vincent and the Grenadines had allowed her to forge valuable connections with influential individuals. Furthermore, she firmly believed that upon our return to Pennsylvania, we should use the $15,300 she earned to embark on this incredible journey. Using a portion of her earnings from the film, we managed to secure a modest apartment in Los Angeles, brimming with hope and anticipation. We were stepping into a new chapter of our lives. Days turned into months, and my girlfriend faced the challenging task of securing significant film roles in this bustling city. Every morning, she woke up early and attended auditions in the hope of achieving a long-awaited breakthrough. Unfortunately, she mainly came across minor roles in local business advertisements that offered meager compensation, falling short of our expectations. As her earnings from the movie role began to dwindle, we found ourselves needing to invest in new clothing and photographs for auditions. Recognizing the need to support ourselves, I decided to take a job at a fast food restaurant. It may not have been glamorous, but it provided us with the opportunity to start earning money and sustain our livelihood. As our savings dwindled, I witnessed her hopes and dreams gradually fade in her eyes. Every evening we returned home burdened by the weight of rejections and disappointments, as she came face to face with the harsh realities and fierce competition of the film industry in Los Angeles. In our small Pennsylvania town, she had been considered the epitome of beauty. But in this sprawling city, beauty was commonplace. Months turned into nearly a year, and she still couldn't secure a substantial role for herself. The clothing she bought was now secondhand, and prospects for advancement seemed uncertain. Eventually, she took a job as a shopping mall model, a significant departure from our lofty aspirations. Nevertheless, it allowed, albeit with difficulty, for the bills to be paid. During this period, I found my own path in life as a fitness trainer. Balancing two jobs, one at a restaurant and the other training numerous clients, I aimed to provide stability and support. Our lives were consumed by individual pursuits, and as a result, we seldom found time for each other. Our dreams of success in the entertainment industry appeared to be slipping away, overshadowed by the demands of our busy lives. With each passing day, our dreams seemed to grow more distant. The unforgiving nature of the film and entertainment industry began to wear down my girlfriend's spirit, and I could only helplessly watch as she confronted the harsh reality that achieving success in Hollywood was far from the easy dream we had once envisioned. As time passed, her excessive spending drained our finances completely, and we began to struggle to make ends meet. I became increasingly frustrated with her for depleting our savings at an alarming rate. Finally, we managed to replenish our depleted savings. It happened unexpectedly when I was rummaging through her purse searching for something and stumbled upon a bundle of $1,500. Intrigued, I couldn't help but inquire about where she had obtained such a large sum of money. She appeared flustered, but explained that a photographer she met at the mall had invited her to take pictures at his lavish mansion. I couldn't resist asking why she hadn't mentioned it earlier, to which she replied that she had intended to but somehow forgot. Curiosity got the better of me, and I continued my questioning, wanting to ensure the legitimacy of her earnings. She assured me that everything was fine. However, as she spoke of her best photos and posing in various outfits for professional photographers, doubt began to creep into my mind. Despite our naive understanding of the industry, I couldn't ignore suspicions about the potential for exploitation or ulterior motives. After all, we had heard stories of people in Hollywood willing to pay exorbitant sums for almost anything. I grew curious and asked her to show me the photos. To my surprise, she mentioned that producers rarely provided copies, and it would take some time before anything would be known about the photo shoots. In my naivety, I accepted her explanation without delving deeper into the matter. This situation persisted for the next 2 years. She frequently returned home late at night, attributing it to earning money by frequenting clubs and occupying VIP seats. She often claimed that her involvement in these projects was limited to gatherings in the VIP section. In other instances, she explained that some producers preferred conducting auditions and shooting scenes during the nighttime. However, as her nocturnal escapades became more frequent, a sense of unease settled within me. Worries about her safety and the company she kept began to overwhelm me. She tried to allay my concerns, arguing that she wasn't the only one engaging in such activities, and that many of her friends were compensated similarly. But suspicions persisted in my mind, causing me to question the reality of her actions. Over time, I began to take notice of the company she was keeping, which primarily consisted of individuals typically associated with the adult film industry. Yet, in my naivety, I believed they were simply models. She defended herself by explaining that she had no control over her work schedule, as producers dictated her whereabouts and responsibilities. I tried to logically assess the situation, convincing myself that some producers might genuinely prefer nighttime shoots. All of this seemed to align logically with my limited understanding of the industry. One day, while taking a smoke break near our apartment, a pivotal moment occurred that shattered my illusions. A man in a large SUV pulled up and dropped her off right in front of our house. In that moment, my views on her nocturnal adventures were called into question, leaving me stunned. Shocked by what I witnessed, I couldn't muster the courage to immediately confront her. Instead, I went inside the house and discreetly observed her through the blinds as she entered. Anxiety gripped me at that moment. With a determined decision to uncover the truth about her activities, I secretly planned to follow her the next Friday when she went out. On that Friday, she went on a date with her friends, and I quietly began trailing her. In the end, she ended up at a club with a long line outside. To my surprise, the club's promoter granted my girlfriend and her friends special privileges, allowing them to bypass the long queue and enter the establishment swiftly. In my quest for answers, I reluctantly had to bribe a bouncer generously to gain entry. Inside the club, I carefully scanned the crowd, desperately searching for her. Finally, I spotted her in the VIP section, chatting animatedly and enjoying drinks with her friends. It seemed to match her earlier explanation, and I lingered there for a while. As I began to grow tired and prepare to leave, doubts about the man in the SUV still nagged at me. But those doubts quickly vanished when I realized it was just an Uber Black, and I felt foolish for suspecting betrayal. After scolding myself for being paranoid, I convinced myself that everything was fine and returned to my normal routine. At the time, I worked as a fitness trainer and also dabbled in multi-level marketing, selling dietary supplements and insurance. Thankfully, my average earnings covered rent and my living expenses. When I took charge of managing my own finances, I couldn't help but notice changes in my girlfriend's behavior and appearance. She became more secretive about her financial matters, which raised concerns for me. Occasionally, she displayed aggression toward me, only to apologize later, claiming it was unintentional. Furthermore, she started concealing her finances and paid less attention to her spending, leaving me questioning her financial habits. Despite initially trying to brush these concerns aside, I couldn't ignore the significant decline in her financial stability. She began losing a considerable amount of weight, hardly ate, showed signs of excessive nervousness, and experienced sleep problems. She often slept for extended periods, causing me to worry about her well-being. In my attempt to address her health issues, I made sure she ate properly, attributing her behavior to stress. However, one night as I woke up, I noticed she wasn't in our bed. Baffled, I followed the noise coming from the bathroom, driven by anxiety. To my horror, I discovered my girlfriend using a prohibited substance in the bathroom. I stumbled upon a stash of illegal substances which caught her by surprise. In a panic, she attempted to hide everything but ended up spilling it on the floor. Her desperate actions to salvage the substances resembled a beggar clutching at scattered money. It marked a turning point in our relationship. Overwhelmed by emotions, both of us broke down in tears. She sincerely apologized and pledged to seek help and undergo rehabilitation immediately. It felt as though she had journeyed to Los Angeles, but lost not only herself, but also our connection along the way. Unflinchingly addressing her issues, she bravely kept her promise and checked into a rehabilitation center the very next day. Throughout her month-long stay at the clinic, she displayed genuine remorse and determination, clinging to the hope of overcoming this dark phase and resurrecting her dream. When she completed her rehabilitation program and returned home, she appeared revitalized and filled with newfound strength and resolve. A wave of relief washed over me. Her return was particularly significant as my birthday approached. We had a tradition of going all out for each other's birthdays, always striving to outdo ourselves and create unforgettable celebrations. One day she came home, casually tossing her purse next to me, and went to the bathroom. Curiosity got the better of me, and a few days before my birthday, I decided to search her bag. To my astonishment, I stumbled upon a CD labeled Pilot, and excitement and anticipation surged through me. Without hesitation, I popped it into the DVD player, eager to discover its contents, anticipating it might be a surprise related to me, or perhaps footage of a screen test she attended. I was utterly shocked and filled with anger as the unexpected truth unfolded on the screen. The video showed my girlfriend engaging in intimate activities with another man. It was an image I could hardly fathom. Overwhelmed by emotions, I stormed into the bathroom where she was showering, venting my anger and demanding an immediate explanation for her involvement in such actions. As she emerged from the shower, I noticed she was trembling, and she offered heartfelt apologies. She admitted that what I witnessed was initially meant as a one-time encounter, but had spiraled out of control. I could scarcely comprehend her words. Confused and in search of clarity, I asked her how long she had been involved in this industry. Reluctantly, she confessed that it had been ongoing for over a year. My confusion deepened when she struggled to provide an exact count of how many times she had participated in such activities. Citing the frequency blurred the boundaries and made it hard to keep track. What struck me even more was that the dates and timestamps on the videos coincided with the period when I believed she was in a rehabilitation center seeking help, not pursuing adult films for financial gain. Determined to rebuild my life, I cut off all contact with my ex-girlfriend and focused on my career as a fitness trainer and my involvement in multi-level marketing. Unfortunately, the latter turned out to be a pyramid scheme that was eventually shut down by authorities, dashing my hopes. Undeterred, I decided to invest my savings in opening a gym. However, the high expenses in California posed a significant challenge. Opting to join the Planet Fitness franchise, I seized the opportunity to open a small gym in my Pennsylvania hometown before leaving California. Wanting to be transparent, I reached out to my ex-girlfriend to inform her of my departure. Despite our breakup 6 months earlier, our connection remained strong, and our phone conversation stirred up emotions in both of us. She spoke of feeling abandoned, emphasizing that I had brought her to California and then abandoned her when she needed me most. Her words left me speechless, and I found myself immersed in memories of our shared youth and the dreams we once held together. Having made the decision to return to my hometown, I took the initiative to establish the Planet Fitness Center. As the business began to thrive, I also found solace in close relationships that brought joy and fulfillment back into my life. However, over time I heard unsettling rumors that my ex-girlfriend had turned to a life of street-based solicitation to support her illegal substance use. Initially skeptical, I decided to investigate and discover the truth firsthand. What I uncovered left me utterly shocked. The person I once knew had become a mere shell, devoid of the vibrant soul I had cherished. About 2 years after the opening of my gym, the situation took an unexpected turn. Everything had been going smoothly for me. The membership at my gym kept growing and it seemed like life was on a positive trajectory. But then, an unexpected and devastating piece of news reached me. My ex-girlfriend had passed away while with a client, having consumed an excessive amount of a prohibited substance. The moment I received this heart-wrenching information, chills ran down my spine, and I rushed home. Unable to contain my emotions, I sat on the shower floor, overcome by uncontrollable grief and tears. To this day, I still carry guilt and never cease to wonder if I could have done something differently. Despite reassurances from my therapist, pain and regret continue to weigh heavily on my heart.